Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well and welcome back to another 4D Systems project video. Today I'll be taking you through the entire process of making this electric bike speedometer UI. I'll be showing you the whole process, including designing the UI from scratch in Photoshop, programming the display in Workshop 4, and finally modeling the housing for this display to be mounted onto my bike. For this project, I'll be using 4D Systems pixxiLCD 25P4 display, and I will be using the 4D UPA breakout board to connect it to my computer. So let's get started with this project. As usual, I'm going to start off in Photoshop and break down the design of this UI so you can understand what is going on before I start building the program and coding. The main goal of this UI is to have a simple speedometer with a gauge and needle graphic to have a visual representation of speed within the range that I set. Second is to have the value of the speedometer displayed numerically as well, so I can get the exact indication of speed. And finally, to have supporting elements like max and average speed animations. I'll start with the background elements. These are the elements of the display that are going to remain static while the display is on. I'm going to turn off all the other layers for now and just leave the background on. For this project, that will be the text elements that you can see now that say average speed, max speed, and kilometers per hour. Pretty simple. These can all be exported as one layer because, as I mentioned, I won't have to animate any of the elements here, and it'll be more convenient to lock them as a background as to not have them interfering with the rest of the display. Next are these numbers that are sitting next to the text. Here in Photoshop, I just have them as text, but I won't need to export these as I'm going to rebuild them using text widgets in Workshop 4. However, it's always a good idea to build the entire display prior so you can get an idea and plan what your final design will look like and how it will behave. So those ones are pretty simple. Next up is the road graphic at the bottom here. If I go through the layers in Photoshop, you can see that I have 7 different layers for this one graphic. We will import these images into Workshop and they will behave as forms for the animation, basically looping the frames to indicate movement. I'll show you how to do that in just a bit. Finally is the speedometer and all of its supporting elements like the needle, numeric value indicator, and the graphic in the middle here. So if I open up the folder for this gauge, even though this all is actually going to be imported into one smart gauge widget, it's important to keep in mind that I have to export all of these layers individually so I can control them independent of one another. So for example, when animating the needle to rotate along the arc of the speedometer, I will want that to be its own separate layer, similar to the gauge field that is surrounding the perimeter. Now that we have gone through the design and I've shown you how the Photoshop file is structured, I've gone ahead and exported all of the elements and graphics required for this design. This is what they look like in the export folder. And now from here, I can go ahead and start programming the display in Workshop 4. I'm going to launch Workshop 4, and once I'm at the launch screen, I'm going to select a new project. The display that I'm using for this project is a pixxiLCD. So I'll filter to Pixi, and then the display is right here, pixxiLCD 25P4. I'll select it and I don't want to change the orientation, so I'll just press continue. Finally, I'm going to navigate to the Visi environment. Okay, so here I can start building the program. Since this project does not have too many elements and is simple, it shouldn't take too long. Let me show you how easy the process is. The first thing I'm going to do is import the background image. I'll go to the object inspector on the right side and I'll make sure that form 1 is selected from the object dropdown. Then I'll go to the image option here and click on the 3 dots on the right side. This will open up the file explorer and I can choose my background image. It will now be imported into Workshop 4 and shown on this window here on the image and video converter. Because the Photoshop file was set up for the resolution of this display, I don't have to make any scaling or placement changes here, and I can just press OK. Finally, for the background to show up, I'm just going to change the background type option from color to image, and the background is now being displayed. Moving on, I'm going to add in the text next to these labels. For these, I'm going to need a static text widget. I'm going to go to the widgets menu, choose the labels tab, and drag in a static text label. Using the caption option, I'm going to type in the number that I want to be displayed. So for example, for max speed, I'll put in 100. I can then press the three dots that pop up for the font option and edit the size, font, and style of the text that I would like. When I'm happy with it, I'll press OK, and that's it. I now just need to repeat these steps for the other number that is going to go next to the average speed label. I'll actually just copy and paste this text so we don't have to redo all of the style settings. And I'll just change the caption to, let's say, something like 25. Okay, now that those are complete, the next thing to do is to add the images for the animation on the lower portion of the screen here. To do that, I'm going to again go to the widgets menu. I'm going to navigate to the System Media tab, and then I'm going to select User Images. User Images is definitely ideal for this use case, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to want the images displayed to be treated as frames for the animations, and User Images allows you to upload multiple images and control them. So now that User Images is on the display, I'm just going to go to the Object Inspector and choose the Images option. This will again show the File Explorer and give me the option to upload all of my images for this widget at once. So I'll just select them and press OK in the File Explorer. And now that they are uploaded, you can see that they are all here in this window. If for whatever reason your animation frames get imported in the wrong order, so let's say this one labeled 7 is actually up here for some reason, you can simply reorder them by using the up and down options in this window. So now I can go ahead and press OK, and they will be displayed on the screen. I just need to make sure that they are sized properly for the display, and other than that, there is nothing else that I have to do for this widget right now, as I'll be adding in some code to the program in order to animate this later. As long as all the images are here and it's in the right place and orientation, it should be okay. Moving on to the last part of this UI, I'll be building the speedometer for the display. There is a couple of different layers and settings to do here, but it should be easy to follow along. So to create the speedometer in Workshop 4, I'm first going to go to the widgets menu. This time I'm going to select the gauge widget and I'm going to drag in a smart gauge. If you don't know, smart widgets, which are available in the Pro version of Workshop 4, allow you to create and manipulate your own custom complex widgets using your own graphics. So in this case, I'm going to use it to create the gauge on the screen. Once that's on the display, I'm going to select the config option. This will bring up the Smart Widget Editor window, and this is where I'll be building and controlling the gauge. So to start, I'm going to head to the top left window here, where it says Face or Base Image. I'm going to click on the three dots here, and then I'm going to select my base image that was exported from Photoshop earlier into this smart gauge. In this case, the base image is basically the bottom section of the gauge with the bike graphic and the numbers. Next up, I'm going to import the layer 1 image, which is the needle. This will sit on top of everything else, and of course it will be rotating. I'm going to click enable so we can see the needle, and since our max value here is 100, I'm going to give this layer 100 frames. I'm then going to set the reference point to the center and set my min and max X and Y values to match the reference point as well. That way this layer will not be moving along the X and Y axis, but only rotating. So from here, I just need to set my min and max degrees in accordance to the graphic, and that's it. Now you can see that as I scroll through the frames, the needle is rotating properly. Next up is going to be my cover white A and cover B. Again, I'm going to import my images and enable the layer. and set the reference and min and max values. This time we only need one frame. This layer is just showing some of the color on the perimeter of the gauge as we are swiping through the animation. On layer 3, I'm going to enable the second color layer, which this time is going to be a full color instead of being half. Again, I'm going to give this 100 frames and set the reference point. This time I want this to rotate, so I'll set its min and max degree again, and I'll make sure to link the groups. The final layer will be either on layer 4 or 5, and this is just the main background graphic for the gauge. This isn't moving, so it does not need any frames. All I need to do is set its reference point so it is aligned with the rest of the graphics. And there you go, the needle and color are working properly and moving simultaneously. The last thing I'm going to do for this smart gauge is to add the numeric value right in the center as I had planned in the Photoshop file. And to do this, there is actually a feature. So if I just go back to layer 1, which is our needle graphic, here at the bottom, there's an option called numeric part. If I enable this, you will see that now a number appears on the screen that is linked to this layer and its frames. So while I am scrolling through, the number that is being shown here corresponds to the frame that the gauge is on, giving an exact numeric value. It's that easy. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the font, size, and position, and there you go, the gauge is done. That is all of the UI design part of this display finished. This is pretty much exactly what I had in the Photoshop file, all of the graphics now imported, and the last thing to do for this program, as we are in the Visi environment, is to add the code. So here is a quick rundown of the code and what it is doing. As usual, I'm declaring the target display, pulling in the color and widget ID constants, and setting up the flash file system. I'm using image show to display the widgets, and then the program enters an endless animation loop where frames 0 to 101 runs repeatedly. For the bottom user images, they are being cycled through as well. Of course, all of these values and behavior can be adjusted as I please. That's pretty much it for the code. It's a short and simple one, but it's quite effective and great for making the display look alive. Now that everything in Workshop 4 has been completed, we can move on to the final part of this project, which is designing the housing for the display. So on my bike, I have this mount where your phone would normally go. It's really sturdy, so I thought why not just make a simple housing that is going to easily slip into and be compatible with this mount. That way I can take the display on and off of my bike as I please. So because I didn't have to make the actual part that attached to my bike, it was really easy. I just had to make a nice housing that fit within the boundaries of my existing mount. And I made sure to leave an exit point for the flex cable as well. From here, all I had to do was send it off to my slicer. I printed it in black filament so it didn't stand out and match the mount and my bike. And that was it. From here, I just had to assemble, and the project was complete. Thank you for watching. If you would like to take a look at the Pixi series used in this video, or any of our other products including Workshop 4, please check our website linked in the description. If you have any other questions, please visit the 4D Systems Resource Center. I hope you enjoyed and see you next time.